Welcome to English in Mastery. Before we begin, let me ask you something simple. Have you ever known the words in English, understood the grammar, but still felt unsure when speaking in real conversations? Maybe your mind goes blank. Or your sentences sound correct, but not natural. If that sounds familiar, you are exactly in the right place. In this lesson, you are going to learn how real English actually sounds when people use it every day. Not textbook English, not memorized speeches, but the kind of phrases native speakers rely on without thinking. Today, we are starting a deep practice session focused on mastering more than 60 daily English phrases that help you speak fluently and naturally in almost any conversation. These are phrases people use at home, at work, with friends, with strangers, in casual moments, and in more serious situations. If you stay with me until the end of this video, you will not just recognize these phrases, you will start to feel them, understand when to use them, and gradually make them part of your own speaking. Before we go further, take 1 second to support the channel. If you want to build real speaking confidence and sound more natural in English, click like, subscribe to English in Mastery, and stay connected with us. It truly helps the channel grow and allows us to keep creating long, practical lessons like this one. Now let us begin. Think about how conversations actually start in real life. Most conversations do not begin with perfect sentences. They begin with simple, relaxed phrases. When you see someone you know, you might say, "Hi," "Hey," or "Good to see you." In the morning, "Good morning" is common, but many people shorten it to "morning," especially at work or with people they see every day. These small choices already make your English sound more natural. When someone greets you, they often follow up with, "How are you?" or "How is it going?" A natural response is not always great or fine. Native speakers often say things like, "Pretty good," "Not bad," "Doing all right," or "Hanging in there." These responses sound honest and relaxed. Imagine walking into the office and seeing a coworker. You say, "Morning." They reply, "Hey, how is it going?" You answer, "Pretty good. Just getting started." Right away, the interaction feels real, not forced. These phrases are small, but they set the tone for everything that follows. As conversations continue, we often need to react to what others say. Showing interest is one of the most important skills in natural English. Instead of staying silent, people use short phrases to keep the conversation moving. You might say, "Really?" "Oh, wow. That is interesting." Or "No way." These reactions tell the other person you are listening. For example, a friend says, "I finally finished that project last night." You respond, "Oh, wow. That must feel good." This response is simple, but it builds connection. Another powerful phrase is "tell me more." It invites the other person to continue without pressure. Now let us talk about asking for help or making requests. In real life, people rarely sound direct or demanding. Instead of saying, "Help me," they soften their words. Common phrases include, "Can you help me with this?" "Could you give me a hand?" Or "Would you mind helping me for a second?" Adding "for a second" or "real quick" makes the request feel lighter. Imagine you are at work and need assistance. You say, "Hey, could you give me a hand with this? Real quick?" It sounds polite, friendly, and natural. When someone helps you, do not stop at "Thank you." Native speakers often say, "Thanks," "I appreciate it," or "Thanks. That really helps." These small additions make your English warmer and more human. Now, think about expressing opinions. In daily conversation, people share thoughts constantly, but usually in a soft way. Instead of strong statements, you often hear phrases like, I think, I feel like, or it seems to me. For example, I think this might work better, or I feel like we should leave a bit earlier. These phrases make your opinion sound open, not aggressive. When responding to someone else's idea, you might say, that makes sense. I get what you mean. Or I see your point. Even if you disagree, you can stay polite. A common structure is, I see your point, but I think, followed by your opinion. This keeps the conversation respectful and natural. Let us move into agreeing and disagreeing, which happens all the time in real conversations. To agree, people often say exactly, totally, I agree, or that is true. To disagree politely, they soften it. You might hear, I am not sure about that, or I do not think so, or maybe, but what if? These phrases allow different opinions without creating tension. Imagine a friend says, we should cancel the plan. You reply, I am not sure about that. Maybe we can adjust it instead. This sounds calm and cooperative. Another key area is clarification. Even fluent speakers sometimes do not understand something right away. Native speakers regularly say, sorry, I did not catch that. Or can you say that again? These phrases are not signs of weakness. They are signs of real communication. If someone explains something too quickly, you can say, sorry, could you slow down a bit? This is extremely common and very natural. When you finally understand, you might respond with, got it. Okay. That makes sense now. These small signals keep conversations smooth. Now let us talk about everyday politeness, which is essential in English. Words like please, thanks, excuse me, and sorry appear constantly. When passing someone in a crowded space, excuse me is automatic. If you interrupt someone, you say sorry. Go ahead. If you arrive late, you say sorry about that. These phrases show awareness and respect. Imagine joining a meeting late and saying, sorry about that. Traffic was crazy. Everyone understands. It sounds natural and human. Politeness is not about being formal. It is about being considerate. As conversations develop, people often talk about plans. Common phrases include, what are you up to later? Do you want to? Or are you free? Instead of making fixed statements, people keep it flexible. For example, do you want to grab coffee later? Or are you free this weekend? Responses are usually relaxed. You might say sounds good. Let me check. Or I will let you know. These phrases keep things open and natural. If plans change, people say, something came up. Can we reschedule? Or I might be running late. These expressions are very common and help manage real-life situations smoothly. Before we move on, I want you to pause for a moment. As you listen, do not just understand the phrases. Picture yourself using them. Imagine the situations. This mental practice is powerful. You are training your brain to react automatically, just like native speakers do. In the next section, we will go deeper into emotional responses, encouragement, and more complex everyday situations that push your English closer to an advanced C1 level. Stay with me, because this is where your English starts to feel truly natural. As conversations go deeper, we often need language to express emotions, reactions, and support in a natural way. This is where English starts to feel more advanced, but also more human. When someone shares good news, native speakers rarely respond with only congratulations. They add feeling. You might hear that is great news. I am really happy for you. Or that is amazing. You deserve it. These phrases show genuine interest. Imagine a friend tells you they got a new job. You respond, that is amazing. I am really happy for you. You worked hard for this. This sounds warm and real. On the other hand, when someone shares something negative, it is important to respond with care. Common phrases include, I am sorry to hear that. That must be tough. Or that sounds stressful. These phrases do not try to fix the problem. They simply acknowledge feelings, which is what people often need most. If a colleague says, I have been feeling overwhelmed lately, you might reply, I am sorry to hear that. That sounds like a lot to deal with. This response builds trust and connection. Another key skill in natural conversation is showing empathy without sounding dramatic. Native speakers often use short, calm phrases like, I get it, I know what you mean, or I have been there. These expressions signal understanding. For example, if someone says, working from home has been exhausting, you can say, yeah, I get it. It can really wear you down. This makes the conversation feel balanced and supportive. Let us now focus on encouragement, which appears often in daily life, especially at work, school, or with family. Encouraging phrases include, you can do this, you will be fine, or do not worry too much. These phrases are usually said casually, not in a motivational speech style. If a friend is nervous about a presentation, you might say, you have prepared for this. You will be fine. This feels reassuring and natural. When someone doubts themselves, native speakers often respond with phrases like, you are doing better than you think, or you are on the right track. These expressions are subtle but powerful. They help others regain confidence without pressure. Now let us move into everyday small talk, which is a major part of fluent English. Small talk may seem simple, but it plays a huge role in sounding natural. Common topics include work, daily routines, weather, and general life updates. Phrases like, how has your day been? What have you been up to? Or anything new are used frequently. These questions are open and relaxed. When answering, native speakers rarely give long explanations. They keep it simple. You might say, pretty busy, but productive, or not much, just the usual. These responses sound natural and invite follow-up questions. Talking about routines is also common. You might say, I usually start work around 9, or I tend to go for a walk in the evenings. When asking others, you can say, what is your usual schedule like? Or, do you usually work weekends? These phrases are everyday English and help conversations flow smoothly. Weather is another universal topic. People say things like, it is really hot today, looks like it might rain, or finally some nice weather. These phrases are often used to start conversations with strangers. For example, waiting in line. You might say, it is freezing today. And someone responds, yeah, I was not ready for this cold. This type of exchange is short, but socially important. Let us now talk about transitions in conversation. Native speakers rarely jump from one topic to another without a bridge. They use phrases like, by the way, speaking of that, or that reminds me. These expressions guide the conversation naturally. For instance, after talking about work, you might say, By the way, did you hear about the new cafe nearby? This feels smooth and effortless. Another advanced conversational skill is clarifying your own thoughts. Sometimes you start explaining something and realize it is not clear. Native speakers say things like, "What I mean is," "Let me rephrase that," or "Maybe I did not explain that well." These phrases show awareness and help keep communication clear. Imagine you are in a meeting and notice confusion. You say, "Let me rephrase that. What I mean is, we need more time to finish properly." This sounds confident and professional. Disagreement also becomes more nuanced at higher levels. Instead of direct "no," native speakers soften their response. You might hear, "I am not completely convinced," "I am not sure that would work," or "I see it a bit differently." These phrases allow discussion without conflict. For example, if someone suggests an idea you disagree with, you can say, "I see your point, but I am not sure that would work in this case." This shows respect while maintaining your opinion. Now let us focus on offering and accepting help, which happens constantly in daily life. Offering help sounds natural when you say, "Do you need a hand? Want some help with that?" Or "Let me know if you need anything." These phrases are friendly and non-intrusive. If someone offers help to you, common responses include, "That would be great," "Thanks," or "I think I am okay, but thanks for asking." These replies show appreciation, even when declining. Let us imagine a simple situation. Someone sees you carrying heavy bags and says, "Do you need a hand?" You respond, "That would be great. Thanks." This short exchange feels natural and polite. Next, we move into shopping and service interactions, which are essential for real-life English. Common phrases include, "How much is this?" "Can I try this on?" Or "Do you have this in a different size?" These are direct but polite. At checkout, you often hear, "Would you like a bag?" Paying by card or cash. Or "Do you need a receipt?" Responding with "Yes," "Please," "No," "Thanks," or "Card is fine" is completely natural. These interactions build confidence quickly because they are predictable and frequent. Asking for directions is another everyday situation. People say, "Excuse me, could you help me?" Or, "How do I get to?" These phrases are polite and clear. Responses often include, "Go straight," "Turn left," or "It is right next to." If someone helps you, you say, "Thanks so much," or "I appreciate it." These exchanges are short but essential for daily life, especially when traveling or living abroad. As conversations come to an end, knowing how to close them politely is very important. Native speakers use phrases like, "I should get going," "It was nice talking to you," or "Let us catch up later." These phrases allow you to exit without sounding rude. For example, after a conversation, you might say, "Anyway, I should get back to work, but it was great talking to you." The other person responds, "Yeah, you too. Talk soon." This ending feels natural and friendly. As you can hear, fluent English is not about complex vocabulary. It is about choosing the right simple phrases at the right time. These expressions help you connect, react, support, and move through conversations smoothly. In the next part, we will continue building toward more advanced, natural phrasing, focusing on confidence, tone, and subtle meaning that pushes your English closer to true fluency. Stay focused, keep listening, and let these phrases settle into your thinking. Now that you are comfortable with the core flow of everyday conversation, it is time to sharpen your awareness of tone and intention. This is where English moves beyond basic communication and starts to sound truly fluent. Often, native speakers say less, but mean more. Short phrases carry emotion, attitude, and nuance depending on how they are used. Understanding this will help you sound confident without trying too hard. For example, when someone says, okay, the meaning depends on tone and context. It can mean agreement, hesitation, or even mild frustration. In daily speech, people often use phrases like, I guess so, fair enough, or that works to show flexible agreement. These expressions are common in work and social settings because they sound cooperative. Imagine someone suggests meeting later than planned. You reply, yeah, that works. This signals acceptance without enthusiasm or resistance. Another useful phrase is, I will think about it. Native speakers use this to buy time without saying no directly. It sounds polite and thoughtful. Now let us look at how people soften statements. Instead of saying you are wrong, they might say, I am not sure that is quite right, or I might be mistaken. But these phrases protect the relationship while allowing discussion. In professional or advanced conversations, this skill is essential. For example, in a meeting, you might say, I might be mistaken, but I think the numbers show a different trend. This sounds confident yet respectful. Let us move into expressing uncertainty and hesitation, which is very common in natural English. Native speakers often say, kind of, sort of, maybe, or a bit when they are not fully sure. These words make speech sound more human. For instance, I am kind of tired today, or it is sort of complicated. These phrases do not weaken your English. They make it realistic. Using them appropriately helps your speech flow more naturally. When you need time to think, people often say, let me see, give me a second, or that is a good question. These phrases fill silence naturally and prevent awkward pauses. Imagine someone asks you something unexpected. You respond, that is a good question. Let me think for a second. This sounds calm and confident. Another advanced conversational skill is managing misunderstandings. Instead of reacting emotionally, native speakers clarify calmly. You might say, I think there was a misunderstanding, or that is not quite what I meant. These phrases keep conversations constructive. For example, if someone misinterprets your message, you can say, I think there was a misunderstanding. What I meant was, this keeps the tone professional and clear. Let us now talk about storytelling, which appears often in social conversations. When people share experiences, they use simple connectors to guide the listener. Common phrases include so, then, after that, and in the end. These words help structure your story without sounding formal. For example, so I got there early. Then I realized I had the wrong address. And in the end, everything worked out. This style is natural and easy to follow, to show interest while someone is telling a story. Listeners use small responses like, right? Yeah. Oh, really? Or, wow. These are called back-channel responses, and they are extremely important. They show you are engaged without interrupting. If someone is talking and you stay silent the whole time, it can feel uncomfortable. Adding these small signals makes the conversation feel alive. Now let us focus on expressing preference and choice, which becomes more nuanced at higher levels. Instead of saying I like or I do not like, native speakers often say, I am more into, I tend to prefer, or I would rather. These phrases sound softer and more natural. For example, I would rather stay in tonight. Or, I am more into documentaries than action movies. These expressions help you sound relaxed and confident. When giving reasons, people often use because, so, or that is why in simple ways. You might say, I am staying home tonight because I need to rest. Or it was raining, so we canceled the plan. These structures are simple but essential for clear communication. Let us move into expressing boundaries politely. This is important in both personal and professional life. Instead of saying no directly, people often say, I am not able to right now. I do not think I can. Or, maybe another time. These phrases allow you to protect your time without sounding rude. For example, if someone invites you out, but you are tired, you can say, I do not think I can tonight. Maybe another time. This sounds honest and kind. When receiving feedback or criticism, native speakers often respond with phrases like, I appreciate the feedback. That is helpful. Or, I will keep that in mind. These expressions show maturity and openness. Even if you disagree internally, these phrases keep the conversation professional. Imagine your manager gives advice. You respond, thanks. I will keep that in mind. This shows respect and willingness to improve. Now let us talk about confidence in speech. Confident speakers do not rush. They pause naturally and use clear phrases. They say things like, to be honest, from my experience, or as far as I can tell. These expressions frame your thoughts and show ownership. For example, to be honest, I think we need more time. This signals sincerity. As your English improves, you will notice that fluency is not about speed. It is about clarity and control. Taking a moment to breathe, using natural fillers, and choosing simple phrases will make you sound more advanced than trying to speak fast with complex words. In the next section, we will continue exploring real-life English in deeper situations, including conflict, responsibility, and decision-making, all using natural, everyday phrases that native speakers rely on. Keep listening and let your understanding grow naturally. As your English reaches a higher level, real conversations begin to include responsibility, problem-solving, and decision-making. These situations require calm, clear language that sounds natural, not dramatic. Native speakers rely on simple but precise phrases to handle these moments smoothly. Let us start with taking responsibility. Instead of making excuses, people often say that is on me, my mistake, or I should have checked. These phrases show honesty and maturity. For example, if something goes wrong at work, you might say, that is my mistake. I will fix it. This response builds trust and shows professionalism. When explaining a problem, native speakers focus on facts, not emotion. They say things like, here is the issue, what happened was, or the main problem is. These phrases keep the conversation clear. Imagine explaining a delay. You say, what happened was the system went down, so we lost some time. This sounds calm and informative. Now let us talk about problem-solving language. When discussing solutions, people often say, we could try. One option is, or what if we? These phrases invite collaboration. For example, we could try moving the deadline. Or what if we handle it in stages? This kind of language feels open and practical. When making decisions, native speakers sometimes signal hesitation or careful thought. They use phrases like, I am leaning toward, I am still deciding, or I am not fully sure yet. These expressions show that decisions are being considered seriously. For instance, I am leaning toward taking the earlier flight, but I want to check one more thing. This sounds thoughtful and realistic. Let us now move into handling conflict politely, which is a key C1 skill. Conflict does not require aggressive language. In fact, native speakers often soften their words to keep conversations productive. Phrases like, I understand where you are coming from, but, or, I see your concern, however, are very common. These phrases acknowledge the other person before expressing your own view. Imagine a disagreement at work. You say, I understand where you are coming from, but I think we need to consider the long-term impact. This keeps the discussion respectful. When tensions rise, people sometimes slow things down by saying, let us take a step back, or let us look at this calmly. These phrases reset the tone. They are often used by confident speakers who want solutions, not arguments. Now let us talk about setting expectations. Clear expectations prevent misunderstandings. Native speakers say things like, just to be clear, what I need is, or what I expect is. These phrases help clarify goals without sounding demanding. For example, just to be clear, I need this finished by Friday. This sounds direct but reasonable. Expressing limitations is also important. Instead of saying, I cannot do that, people often say, I do not have the capacity right now, or I am stretched pretty thin. These phrases explain limits without sounding negative. For instance, I am a bit stretched right now, but I can help next week. This keeps relationships positive. Now let us move into decision follow-up. After a decision is made, native speakers often confirm next steps with phrases like, so we are agreed, just to confirm, or moving forward. For example, just to confirm, we are meeting at 10 tomorrow. This avoids confusion. In daily life, similar phrases are used casually. You might say, so we are meeting at the cafe at 6. Right. These confirmations help conversations feel organized and clear. Another advanced area is explaining reasoning. People often say the reason is, that is why, or it comes down to. These phrases help structure explanations naturally. For example, it comes down to timing. That is why we need to decide today. This sounds clear and confident. Let us now look at expressing patience and flexibility. Life is unpredictable, and native speakers reflect that in their language. They say things like, no rush, take your time, or whenever works for you. These phrases reduce pressure. If someone is late replying, you might say, no rush at all. This sounds relaxed and understanding. When things do not go as planned, people often use acceptance phrases like, it is what it is. We will figure it out. Or we will see how it goes. These expressions show resilience and calm. For example, if plans fall apart, you say, it is what it is. We will figure it out. This keeps morale steady. Let us now consider how people talk about effort and progress. Instead of dramatic language, they use steady phrases like, we are making progress, it is getting there, or it is a work in progress. These expressions are common in professional and personal contexts. For instance, learning English itself is often described this way. You might say, my English is getting there. I just need more practice. This sounds realistic and confident. As conversations continue over time, people often check in. They say, how is it going so far? Any updates? Or just checking in. These phrases show attentiveness. For example, you might message a colleague saying, just checking in to see how things are going. This is polite and natural. At this level, Your English becomes less about memorizing phrases and more about choosing the right tone. Calm, clear, respectful language is what defines advanced fluency. In the next part, we will move into subtle social dynamics, including humor, light, sarcasm, and reading between the lines, all essential for understanding real native conversations. Stay engaged and keep listening carefully, because this is where English truly comes alive. At an advanced level, understanding English is not only about the words being said, but also about what is implied. Native speakers often communicate indirectly, using tone, context, and shared understanding. This is where many learners struggle. But once you begin to recognize these patterns, conversations feel much more natural. Let us start with indirect meaning. When someone says that might be tricky, they often mean it will be difficult. When they say we will see, it can mean maybe or even no. Depending on the situation, these phrases soften reality and avoid confrontation. For example, if you suggest a plan and someone replies, "We will see," they may not be fully convinced. Recognizing this helps you read between the lines. Another common phrase is, "I will get back to you." This does not always mean soon. It simply means not now. Native speakers use this to delay a response politely. Understanding this prevents misunderstandings and unrealistic expectations. Let us move into light humor and casual tone. Humor in daily English is often subtle. People make small comments like that figures, "just my luck," or "typical." These phrases are used when something mildly inconvenient happens. For example, if it starts raining right after you leave the house, you might say, "Well, that figures." This kind of humor is dry and understated. It is not about jokes, but shared experience. Sarcasm is also present in many cultures that use English, but it is usually gentle in daily conversation. A phrase like, "Yeah, right," can mean disbelief, depending on tone. If someone says, "I will finish everything today," and you know it is unlikely, you might respond, "Yeah, right," with a smile. Tone is everything here. Without the right tone, sarcasm can sound rude, so it is important to listen carefully before using it yourself. Now let us talk about managing awkward moments. Silence happens in conversations, and native speakers are comfortable filling it lightly. They say things like, "anyway," "so," or "right," to move forward. These filler transitions help conversations continue without pressure. For example, after a pause, you might say, "Anyway, what were we talking about earlier?" This resets the flow. Another advanced skill is responding without over-explaining. Native speakers often keep answers short, unless more detail is requested. For instance, if someone asks, "How was the meeting?" a natural answer is, "It went well," or "It was productive." You only add details if the listener shows interest. This keeps conversations efficient and balanced. Let us move into social boundaries and politeness at a deeper level. Phrases like, "I would rather not," "I am not comfortable with that," or "I prefer to keep that private," are used to protect personal space. These phrases are calm and respectful. For example, if someone asks a personal question, you might say, "I would rather not get into that." This sets a boundary without conflict. Now let us consider how native speakers express mild criticism. Instead of direct criticism, they soften it. They say things like, "It could be better," or "There might be room for improvement." These phrases suggest change without blame. For example, in feedback, someone might say, "The idea is good," but there might be room for improvement in the delivery. This is very common in professional settings. Another area is expressing expectations socially. When people say, "let me know," they often mean, "keep me updated." When they say, "feel free to reach out," they are giving permission for contact. These phrases are polite signals, not formal instructions. Understanding them helps you respond appropriately. Let us talk about trust and reassurance. When someone is worried, native speakers say things like, "You are fine," "It is all good," or "Nothing to worry about." These phrases calm the situation. If someone apologizes unnecessarily, you might say, "You are good. No worries." This reduces tension and keeps the interaction friendly. Now let us explore conversational rhythm. Advanced speakers vary sentence length naturally. They mix short responses with longer explanations. They pause, emphasize, and adjust based on the listener. This rhythm cannot be memorized, but it can be absorbed through listening and practice. That is why long listening sessions like this one are so powerful. You are training your ear as much as your mind. Another subtle skill is knowing when not to speak. In group conversations, native speakers listen, nod, and use small responses instead of dominating. They say right, or exactly at the right moments. This shows engagement without interruption. As your awareness grows, you will start noticing these patterns in movies, podcasts, and real conversations. You will realize that fluency is not about sounding impressive. It is about sounding comfortable. In the next part, we will continue into real-world scenarios that require calm confidence, such as negotiations, explanations, and everyday professional interactions, all using the same natural, familiar language you are hearing now. Stay focused and keep listening, because each phrase is shaping how you think in English. As conversations move into more practical, real-world situations, confidence often comes from knowing how to explain yourself clearly without sounding defensive or unsure. Native speakers rely on simple, flexible phrases to do this. When clarifying a point, they say things like, "What I mean is," "to put it another way," or "just to be clear." These phrases give you a second chance to express an idea without restarting the conversation. For example, if someone misunderstands you, you might say, "What I mean is that we can finish it tomorrow, not today." This keeps the tone calm and cooperative. Another common situation is disagreement. Advanced speakers disagree softly. Instead of saying "you are wrong," they say "I am not sure I agree," or "I see it a bit differently." These phrases allow space for discussion. For instance, in a meeting, you might say, "I see your point, but I see it a bit differently based on our timeline." This shows respect while still expressing your view. Let us move into giving explanations. Native speakers often structure explanations naturally without thinking about grammar rules. They begin with context, then add detail. They say things like, "basically," "the idea is," or "the main thing is." For example, basically, "The idea is to simplify the process so it saves time." These phrases help the listener follow your logic. They also buy you time to think while sounding fluent. Now, consider how people handle mistakes. When something goes wrong, native speakers acknowledge it lightly. They say "my bad," "that is on me," or "I must have missed that." These phrases take responsibility without drama. If you forget to send an email, you might say, "Sorry about that. I must have missed it." This sounds natural and professional. Over-apologizing, on the other hand, can feel uncomfortable. That is why short acknowledgments are preferred. Let us talk about everyday problem solving. In daily life, people suggest solutions casually. They say we could try. Maybe it would help if. Or one option is. These phrases are flexible and non-demanding. For example, if a plan is not working, you might say, maybe it would help if we adjusted the schedule. This invites collaboration rather than forcing agreement. Another key area is time and availability. Native speakers are very precise but polite. They say, I am tied up right now. I should be free later. Or I can squeeze it in. These phrases manage expectations. If someone asks for your time and you are busy, saying I am tied up right now sounds natural and honest. It does not require explanation. Let us look at expressing uncertainty. Instead of saying I do not know, people often say, I am not entirely sure. I will have to check. Or, I cannot say for certain. These phrases sound thoughtful and careful. For example, I cannot say for certain, but it should be ready by Friday. This leaves room for change. Another advanced habit is softening strong statements. Native speakers avoid sounding absolute unless necessary. They add phrases like kind of, more or less, or generally speaking. For example, generally speaking. This approach works well. This shows flexibility and awareness. Now consider how people end conversations smoothly. They rarely stop abruptly. They say things like, I should get going. Let us catch up soon. Or, I will let you get back to it. These closings respect the other person's time. For example, after a chat at work, you might say, I will let you get back to it. This signals the end without awkwardness. Another subtle skill is acknowledging effort. When someone helps you, native speakers say I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time. Or that means a lot. These phrases are simple but powerful. They strengthen relationships and show emotional intelligence. Over time, using these phrases becomes automatic. You stop translating in your head. You respond naturally, based on context and feeling. This is the shift toward real fluency. As you continue listening, notice how these phrases connect smoothly, without tension or effort. In the next part, we will move deeper into high-frequency phrases used in workplace and social environments, where clarity, tone, and confidence matter even more. Keep listening and let these patterns settle into your thinking. In professional and social environments, advanced fluency shows up in how smoothly you navigate expectations, pressure, and small talk without sounding stiff or over-prepared. Native speakers rely on calm, neutral phrases that keep conversations moving while protecting relationships. One very common phrase is let us touch base. This simply means let us talk later. It is not formal, but it is polite and efficient. For example, if something cannot be decided right away, you might say, let us touch base tomorrow. Another frequent phrase is, I will loop you in, meaning, I will include you in the conversation or update. These expressions sound natural because they are used constantly in real workplaces. Now let us talk about handling pressure. When deadlines or expectations rise, native speakers keep their language steady. They say things like, I am working on it. It is in progress. Or, I am on it. These phrases reassure without promising too much. If someone asks for an update, saying, it is in progress, sounds responsible and calm. Avoid over-explaining. Short, confident responses build trust. Another area is expressing priorities. Instead of saying something is very important, native speakers say this is a priority, or this is at the top of my list. These phrases signal importance clearly. For example, I will handle that first. It is at the top of my list. This sounds organized and reliable. Let us move into social small talk at a higher level. Small talk is not about information. It is about connection. People say things like, "How is everything going?" "Keeping busy," or "How have things been?" These questions are open and friendly. A natural response might be "keeping busy," but in a good way. This invites light conversation without going too personal. Another common habit is commenting on shared context. Native speakers say things like, "It has been a long week," "Time flew by," or "That came up fast." These phrases create instant connection because they reflect shared experience. Now consider how people respond when they do not fully agree but want to stay friendly. They say, "I hear you," "I get where you are coming from," or "That makes sense." Even if they disagree later, they acknowledge the other person first. For example, "I hear you, but I think we might need another option." This softens the conversation and keeps it productive. Let us talk about decision-making language. Native speakers often delay decisions politely. They say, "Let me think it through," "I want to sleep on it," or "I will circle back." These phrases buy time without sounding uncertain. If someone suggests an idea and you are not ready to commit, saying, "Let me think it through," sounds thoughtful, not weak. Another advanced skill is summarizing naturally. People say so. "Just to recap," or "in short." These phrases help close discussions clearly. For example, "Just to recap, we will start next week and review progress on Friday." This confirms understanding without sounding formal. Now look at emotional control in language. Native speakers rarely sound extreme. Instead of saying, "I am angry," they say, "I am a bit frustrated." Instead of saying, "I am stressed," they say, "I have a lot going on." These softer phrases communicate emotion without intensity. This is especially important in professional settings. Let us move into expressing confidence quietly. Native speakers do not oversell themselves. They say, "I am comfortable with that," "I have handled similar situations," or "I can take care of it." These phrases show confidence through experience, not ego. For example, if asked to lead something, you might say, "I can take care of it. I have done this before." Finally, notice how all these phrases share one thing. They are simple and flexible and context-driven. They are not impressive on their own, but together, they create a fluent, natural presence. As you keep listening, your brain begins to recognize these patterns automatically. You stop searching for words and start responding instinctively. In the next part, we will move into more nuanced everyday situations, such as setting expectations, handling misunderstandings, and maintaining professionalism while staying human. Keep listening closely and let the language settle in naturally. As interactions become more nuanced, fluency depends on how well you manage expectations and misunderstandings without creating tension. Native speakers are very careful with tone in these moments. One common phrase is "just so you know." This is used to give information without sounding demanding. For example, "Just so you know, the schedule might change slightly." This prepares the listener without pressure. Another phrase is "for what it is worth." This introduces an opinion gently. You might say, "For what it is worth, I think the earlier option worked better." It signals humility rather than certainty. Let us talk about correcting misunderstandings. Native speakers rarely say, "You misunderstood me." Instead, they say, "That is not quite what I meant," or "I may not have explained it clearly." These phrases take shared responsibility and keep the conversation respectful. For instance, I may not have explained it clearly. What I meant was that we need more time. This removes blame and keeps trust intact. Another important skill is setting clear but polite limits. Phrases like, I can help with that, but not today, or I will need more time are common. These statements are honest and calm. If someone asks for something unrealistic, saying I will need more time sets a boundary without sounding negative. Now consider how native speakers manage follow-ups. Instead of chasing aggressively, they say just checking in or following up on our last conversation. These phrases are neutral and professional. For example, just checking in to see if you had a chance to review it. This feels respectful rather than pushy. Let us move into expressing appreciation and recognition. In daily English, people say thanks for flagging that, or good catch. These phrases acknowledge effort quickly. If someone points out a mistake, saying good catch shows gratitude and professionalism. Another area is navigating uncertainty together. Native speakers say, let us see how it goes, or we will take it from there. These phrases accept uncertainty without anxiety. For example, if a plan is not fully clear yet, you might say, let us see how it goes and adjust if needed. This sounds flexible and confident. Now consider how people soften negative information. Instead of bad news, they say it looks like there might be a delay, or it is not ideal. But these phrases prepare the listener emotionally. For example, it is not ideal, but we may need to postpone the meeting. This shows awareness and care. Another advanced habit is acknowledging effort, even when results are not perfect. Native speakers say, I appreciate the effort, or thanks for putting this together. This maintains morale. In professional cultures, effort is often recognized alongside results. Let us talk about tone in written and spoken follow-ups. Phrases like, when you get a chance, or at your convenience, remove urgency. For example, when you get a chance, could you take a look? This sounds polite and patient. Now move into maintaining professionalism while staying human. Native speakers use light personal comments without oversharing. They say, hope your week is going well, or hope you had a good weekend. These small touches build rapport. They are brief but meaningful. Another subtle skill is knowing when to stop pushing a point. People say, fair enough, or that makes sense. These phrases close a topic gracefully. If someone disagrees and you decide not to continue, saying fair enough shows maturity. Finally, notice how all these expressions create a sense of calm control. Fluency at this level is not about speed. It is about choice, choosing the right phrase for the moment. As you continue listening, your awareness of these choices grows. In the next part, we will explore how native speakers sound confident and relaxed in more challenging situations, such as explaining decisions, handling criticism, and speaking up without sounding aggressive. Stay engaged and let the language continue shaping your instinctive responses. In more challenging situations, native speakers rely on calm, grounded language to explain decisions and respond to criticism without becoming defensive. One powerful phrase is the reason for that is. This helps you explain your thinking clearly. For example, the reason for that is we needed more data before moving forward. This sounds thoughtful, rather than reactive. Another common phrase is based on what we know so far. This signals that your decision is informed but flexible. It leaves room for change. Let us talk about receiving criticism. Advanced speakers do not argue immediately. They say, I appreciate the feedback, or that is helpful to know. These phrases show openness, even if you disagree. Acknowledging first keeps the conversation constructive. For instance, I appreciate the feedback. Let me take another look. This buys time and shows professionalism. When responding to criticism, native speakers often use partial agreement. They say you have a point, or I can see that. This does not mean full agreement. It simply recognizes part of the concern. For example, you have a point about the timing. We might need to adjust that. This keeps dialogue open. Now consider how people defend a position politely. Instead of saying, I am right, they say, from my perspective, or the way I see it. These phrases present opinions as viewpoints, not facts. For instance, from my perspective, this approach is more sustainable long-term. This reduces tension and invites discussion. Let us move into speaking up in groups. Many learners stay silent because they fear interruption. Native speakers enter conversations with simple signals like, "Can I add something?" or "just to add to that." These phrases allow you to join without cutting others off. For example, just to add to that, we should consider the budget. This feels collaborative. Another important skill is handling mistakes publicly. When something goes wrong, native speakers stay composed. They say that is on me, or I take responsibility for that. These phrases build credibility. Admitting mistakes calmly increases trust. Let us talk about managing emotional reactions. Instead of reacting strongly, people say, I need a moment to think about that, or let me process this. These phrases create space. They prevent impulsive responses. For example, let me process this and I will get back to you. This sounds mature and self-aware. Another area is handling difficult questions. Native speakers often pause and say, that is a good question. This acknowledges the question while giving time to think. It also shows respect for the person asking. Let us move into assertiveness without aggression. Phrases like, I need to be clear about one thing, or it is important to note that are used to emphasize calmly. For example, I need to be clear about one thing. The deadline cannot change. This sets boundaries firmly but politely. Now consider how people close difficult conversations. They summarize and suggest next steps. They say, let us move forward with, or the next step would be. For example, the next step would be to review this again next week. This shifts focus from conflict to progress. Another advanced habit is emotional neutrality in language. Native speakers avoid emotionally loaded words unless necessary. They choose balanced phrasing. This keeps discussions professional and productive. Over time, this way of speaking becomes automatic. You stop preparing sentences and start reacting naturally. That is real fluency. As you continue listening, notice how these phrases flow together smoothly. In the next part, we will shift into everyday confidence in social life, including expressing opinions, handling invitations, and sounding natural in casual conversations without overthinking. Stay with the rhythm and keep absorbing the language. In social life, fluency shows up in how relaxed and natural you sound when expressing opinions, accepting or declining invitations, and sharing everyday thoughts. Native speakers keep things light and flexible. When giving an opinion, they often say, I think, I feel like, or to be honest. These phrases soften opinions and make them sound personal rather than absolute. For example, to be honest, I think this place is a bit overrated. This invites conversation instead of debate. Let us talk about invitations. When accepting, native speakers say, sounds good, I am in, or that works for me. These phrases are casual and positive. If someone invites you out, responding with sounds good, feels friendly and natural. When declining, they avoid direct refusal. They say, I might have to pass, or I cannot make it this time. These phrases are gentle and respectful. For instance, I cannot make it this time, but thanks for the invite. This keeps relationships smooth. Another common habit is expressing interest without commitment. People say that could be fun, or I would be open to that. These phrases show curiosity without promising. For example, if someone suggests a trip, you might say, that could be fun. Let me check my schedule. This buys time naturally. Let us move into casual storytelling. Native speakers keep stories short unless asked for more. They start with phrases like, so basically, long story short, or it turns out. For example, long story short, we ended up missing the train. These phrases guide the listener and keep attention. Another social skill is reacting naturally. Instead of full sentences, native speakers use short responses like, no way, that makes sense, or I get that. These reactions show engagement. They are essential for natural conversation flow. Let us talk about handling awkward moments socially. When things feel uncomfortable, people use humor or light comments. They say, well, that was awkward. Or anyway. These phrases reset the mood. For example, if a conversation stalls, saying anyway moves things forward. Another area is expressing preferences. Native speakers say, I am more into, I am not really a fan of, or I tend to prefer. These phrases sound natural and honest. For instance, I am more into quiet places than loud bars. This sounds relaxed and personal. Let us consider how people respond to compliments. Instead of denying, they say thanks. I appreciate that. Or that is kind of you. This keeps the exchange smooth. Over-explaining or rejecting compliments can feel awkward. A simple response is best. Now move into casual confidence. Native speakers do not try to impress. They speak comfortably. They pause. They choose simple words. This is why fluent English often sounds easy. Another subtle habit is mirroring language. People naturally repeat a word or phrase the other person uses. This builds connection. For example, if someone says it has been hectic, you might respond, yeah, it has been hectic. This shows understanding. Finally, notice how social fluency is about comfort, not perfection. Mistakes happen, but confidence stays. As you continue listening, you are training yourself to respond the way native speakers do, without fear or overthinking. In the next part, we will bring everything together, reinforcing how to sound fluent across situations and how to continue improving beyond this video. Stay present and let the language settle deeply. At this point, everything you have heard connects into one core idea. Fluency is not about using complex words. It is about responding naturally, with the right tone, at the right moment. Native speakers do not search for perfect sentences. They rely on familiar patterns. These patterns repeat across work, social life, and everyday situations. When you recognize them, English stops feeling like a foreign system and starts feeling like a tool you already know how to use. One of the most important habits is trusting simple language. Short phrases like that works. Sounds fair. Or, I am good with that carry confidence, because they are clear. Over time, you will notice that native speakers rarely over-explain, unless they need to. They speak, pause, and adjust based on the listener. This flexibility is what you are developing right now. Let us reinforce how everything fits together. When you need time, You say, "Let me think it over." When you disagree, you say, "I see it a bit differently." When you want to close a conversation, you say, "I should get going." These are not rules. They are tools. The more you hear them, the more automatic they become. Another key shift is emotional control in language. Fluent speakers sound calm because they choose neutral words. Instead of reacting strongly, they respond thoughtfully. This does not mean hiding emotion. It means expressing it in a way that keeps conversations productive. This is especially important when English is not your first language, because strong emotions can make communication harder. Listening regularly helps regulate this. Now consider how you continue improving after this video. The goal is not memorization. The goal is recognition. When you hear a phrase in a movie, a podcast, or a real conversation, notice it. Pay attention to when it is used, not just what it means. Then try it in a low-pressure situation. Use it once. Let it feel natural. That is how fluency grows. Another powerful habit is shadowing. Listening and repeating at the same time trains your rhythm and intonation. Even a few minutes a day makes a difference. Focus on sounding relaxed, not perfect. The more relaxed you sound, the more fluent you appear. Remember that native speakers make mistakes too. They pause, they restart, they change direction, mid-sentence. This is normal. Fluency includes these moments. When you accept that, your confidence increases. Now bring your attention back to why you started. You wanted to speak comfortably. You wanted to express yourself without hesitation. You wanted English to feel natural in any conversation. Everything you have listened to is guiding you toward that goal. Keep listening. Keep absorbing. Keep trusting the process. The more time you spend with natural English, the more it becomes part of how you think. In the final part, we will gently close this session by reinforcing confidence and encouraging consistent practice, so the progress you are making continues long after the video ends. Stay with the flow and keep listening. As we come to the end of this long listening session, take a moment to notice how English feels right now. There is no pressure to remember every phrase. What matters is that your mind has been exposed to real, natural patterns again and again. This is how fluency forms. Quietly, steadily, without force. Native speakers do not think about rules when they speak. They rely on familiarity, rhythm, and instinct. And that instinct grows through listening exactly like this. If you are listening actively, great. If you are listening passively, that is just as powerful. Your brain is still learning. It is still adjusting. It is still absorbing how real English sounds and flows in everyday life. Confidence does not arrive suddenly. It builds over time. One calm interaction after another. Each phrase you hear becomes easier to recognize. Each response feels a little more natural. And eventually, you stop translating. You simply respond. That is the shift you are working toward. Keep coming back to long, natural English. Let it play while you relax, while you work, while you rest. There is no rush. Consistency matters more than intensity. If this session helped you feel more comfortable with English, take a moment to support the channel. A simple like helps others find this content. Subscribing keeps you connected to future long-form practice designed to build real fluency. And if you want, leave a comment about where you are listening from or how English fits into your daily life. That connection matters. Remember, sounding fluent is not about sounding perfect. It is about sounding at ease. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to think. You are allowed to speak simply. That is how real conversations work. Keep listening. Keep trusting the process. And let English become a natural part of how you move through the world. One calm sentence at a time.